Welcome back to Assault and Battery. I'm going to provide a recap and a review of Better Call Saul Season 6, Episode 10, Nippy, the all Gene episode we've all been waiting for. And also, pretty quick found out that this is where Carol Burnett showed up, so pretty cool.
Assault and Battery, hosted by Healy.
So we'll go ahead and get started. Cold open. There's a lady on a scooter who clearly is not interested in any help. She's got the little reacher grabber thing to get things off the shelf. Tries some sharp cheddar at one point. Not a fan, but we see it's Carol Burnett, and she's very particular. She's on her scooter, no interest in help, very self-sufficient. She's on her way home, and all of a sudden we see her get stuck on a curb where there's some snow in the gutter kind of area. And she's like, it wasn't like this before. And then in the background, we see Gene putting up signs for a missing dog, his dog, Nippy, who we find out bailed out of a window in a moving car, which seems like Nippy wouldn't have gotten too far away with that. But anyway, he's kind of striking up a bit of a conversation with her, offering to help. She remains totally disinterested. She tries and she tries, and the typical Jimmy, Saul, Gene charm. Eventually, he convinces her to let him give her a push, which he does. He gets her pushed out of there, but as he gets down to get ready to push, he snips some wires, so it totally disables her scooter. So he gets her past the place where she was stuck, and now she can't go anywhere. And so the cold open ends with him pushing her scooter to her home. Next, the titles run like they always do, but we've kind of seen through the whole series of seasons that the title footage kind of continues to degrade, and it's apparently degraded enough this time that it actually breaks, and we get the dreaded VCR blue screen, which was kind of a neat touch. What was really cool about this episode is how effortlessly they tied back again and again and again to the previous Gene scenes. You're going to see overhead shots of a Cinnabon. You're going to see the isotopes in this next scene, the isotopes dangler. That's there. And they just basically any of the previous Gene scenes, there's some sort of callback or connection to it one way or another. As we rejoin them now, they're in Marion's house. Gene's being the typical charming guy that he can be. And all of a sudden we see Jeff. Don Harvey played Jeff in the teasers before, was super cool. He did a great job. He was menacing. He had kind of this combination of kind of friendly, but kind of menacing, and he did a good job. But shockingly enough, 4 years after that was filmed, when they're filming this, he had conflicts and he couldn't join. So they, in a production that had already dealt with Bob Odenkirk's episode, COVID as well, they were already kind of under the gun to get things done, and it seemed highly unlikely and likely very costly to wait for him to free up. So they recast it with a fine actor named Pat Healy. I thought Pat did a fantastic job through there. I've seen people kind of complaining, and he just, can't judge a book by its cover. I mean, probably Don's a little more just when you make a first look at him, could probably pull off menace just with his features a little bit more. But I thought Pat did an outstanding job as this character. Maybe a little of the menace was gone in there, but you also got to remember this guy's like on his back heels from the beginning, because the scene starts up. Gene's there talking to the mom. Jeff comes in, and all of a sudden there's Gene's. He was not prepared for that. Gene's going to stay for dinner. Apparently, he's done a little meatloaf coaching with Marion as well, Jeff's mother, and that goes on. And so they kind of have their dinner, and then they go out to the get rid of the garbage, and Jeff follows Gene out and then kind of brings it on. They're saying, hey, what's going on here? And this is Gene kind of taking control of the situation. And he goes, hey, it's just one call and Saul Goodman's in jail. And Gene's like, well, you haven't done that yet, so you must be interested in something else. And I know what that is. You want in the game. Jeff is a little confused by that to begin with, but then he starts to kind of sort it out. And so Jimmy says, I'm going to get you in the game, but then we're done. He did kind of mention in the conversation, I guess that doesn't tickle your pickle, which I thought was a pretty good line for the show. He does make his way home, and when he gets home, he puts back on Marco's ring. We then come back to another day for Gene at the Cinnabon. And again, we are going to be treated to all sorts of callback from previous Gene episodes. There's the room where the trash is there. There's the cleaning guy on the little Zamboni, small Zamboni, whatever that is. He prepares some Cinnabons like we've seen in previous episodes as well. And he makes his way up to the security office, noting where the cameras are at and all that. Knocks on the door. The door opens up. It's it was actually another callback. It was one of the mall officer that was there with the police officer when they caught the kid. Gene pointed where the kid was at there. That was also seen where Gene yelled, "Get a lawyer," which he's reminded of by this mall cop who doesn't seem to be too happy to see him. But Gene comes in, talks about, "Hey, you guys really helped me out when I fainted." And so another callback at that point. There's an older security guard sitting behind watching the monitors who ends up being quite delighted that Gene has brought some Cinnabons. And so he kind of cracks that out. And I've never seen a person eat a Cinnabon with a knife and a fork as fastidiously as this guy did. But he does. And apparently pretty predictably, because Jimmy kind of starts his watch and he's timing it. And you're kind of wondering why. But he starts timing how long it takes a guy to eat his Cinnabon. And then we're treated with the typical Breaking Bad / Better Call Saul montage of this being a repeated event over and over again. The trash, going up the escalator, getting to the security office, doing that kind of stuff, and away they go. We also see Jimmy make his way over to a pretty high-end department store, and he appears to be checking out the higher-priced merchandise. He's also stepping things out, keeping track on what the size of everything is. So you know this is part of the scam. You don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but you find out shortly because he has built a scale model in a field of the layout of the store, and he's basically coaching Jeff through the sprint he needs to make to collect all the goods. And there seems to be a count. And this is where, in the teaser from the last episode, we heard this kind of all the different products and just kind of chatting going on. And I predicted on Twitter that was Gene going wild, and it was. But it was Gene going wild in terms of prepping for a scam and getting this guy ready to go. He kind of stresses to Jeff, as part of this, for this to work, he's got to go, three items, and he's got 3 minutes on each run to do it, so that there's not enough to kind of set a trigger on inventory that they don't notice right away until they do their regular inventory and find out something's gone. And by that time, the security tapes will be erased. And another fine quote: "Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered." Jeff says this is crazy. Gene says, "You know what crazy is?" And he regales him of a story of a certain high school chemistry teacher who came in broke, and then within a year had a pile of money bigger than a Volkswagen. So we get a nice Walt mention at this point. After some time passes, we cut back to the morning. We're back at the department store, and it's getting close-ish, I guess, to closing time. And the store manager, who seems like totally on top of everything, comes by one section to notice that the floor is not in great shape. And so she recommends, "Hey, bring them in and have them polish this part of the floor." And that's not good, because we're going to have a guy running here soon. What's going to happen on that polished floor. Pretty easy to tell. The manager then has more to deal with. There's been this gigantic box that's been delivered down there that is clearly not the type of merchandise that the store would carry. She calls the delivery place, which is actually Gene, and he kind of does the song and dance with her a little bit. "I can't get there. I could drive down. It's going to be 4 hours." And eventually talks her into, "Hey, how about I get a guy there first thing tomorrow morning?" And she reluctantly agrees to that. And Gene says, "I'll send flowers." She didn't say it was necessary, but he is going to do that, by the way. So there you go. So it's clearly game day. Jimmy's going through his usual path. He's heading his way to security, and now they kind of, just like clockwork, they know he's coming, and the door's buzzed open even before he gets there. And he sits down, gets things ready to go, because what had happened at this time is the store's closed. Jeff was in the box. Jeff gets out of the box. And then simultaneously to the beginning of the ritual eating of the Cinnabon, Jeff starts on his run, and he's doing all the stuff that he practiced really well, counting things out, only taking 3, doing what he needs to do. It seems to be going really well. We had seen earlier that the guy liked to talk sports, and Gene was pretty unfamiliar with it. But as these have gone by, being the good con that he is, he's picked up background, so he can kind of extend that conversation quite a bit. So they're very animated. They're talking back and forth, having a good time. And it's getting pretty close to the end. And in the background, you see Jeff hit the polished part of the floor as predicted. Up he goes and goes down hard. And he is not moving. And he is not moving for quite a bit of time. Gene keeps looking up, hoping he'll see motion. He doesn't. And so we're basically at the end of the Cinnabon duration, and he's about to turn back. And so Gene has to call an audible, and he starts to break down and talk about how bad his life is. And he actually does kind of talk about some things that are related to his past life, that he doesn't have a wife anymore, that his parents are dead, that his brother is dead. And that was kind of a hard thing for him to bring out, but he did. But he kind of kept pulling the guy back long enough for Jeff to eventually wake up, stagger off, and get off camera and get things done. So, phew, they're good. They made it out. We then go to the next morning. The mall opens up, kind of a time lapse of people coming in and out of the mall. The manager's walking around, doesn't appear to see much of anything. And Jeff, who had kind of holed up in a bathroom overnight, now makes his way out of the store, hobbling a little bit, kind of had a tough day, and seemed to be in the clear. So then we come back to them unloading their booty out of the box. They're in the garage and they're unloading it all. And Jeff and his buddy are all excited about what's going on. And this is when Gene kind of finishes the con on what he was looking to do. He's like, well, good, because I had you pick this truck up across state. So that's interstate this and all that. So he's basically set them up for 10 to 15 years of hard time if he turns them in. So he's basically using that as a bargaining chip, mutually assured destruction, to say, hey, you mess with me, I'll mess with you. So this is his plan to kind of shut Jeff down for good. Seems pretty solid. Marion comes back at that time. They do a quick bluff like they're working on the car. You were hoping they weren't going to get caught. And it goes on from there. So they seem to have dodged it. Gene seems to have gotten what he's wanted. But, and this is kind of interesting. This has happened a couple times now. It happened with Saul in his Saul mode when the cops were asking him about the missing person who was not known to them as Lalo, and he calls him Lalo, let that name slip out. And no, I have a lot of clients. That's not the one you were talking about. Mr. Guzman, I think, was who they were talking about. And then here, Marion asks about Nippy. So how's Nippy? And there's a moment where Gene's like, who's Nippy? And then realizes it goes through. But he's usually so much more solid, doesn't have these kind of slip-ups. But it's been a long time since he's done it. So I guess maybe he's a little bit rusty. Obviously, everything else worked out great. But he did stagger just slightly on Nippy, and you're going to kind of wonder, when you have an actress of the magnitude of Carol Burnett, is she a one episode and done? She certainly looks like Marion's a sharp cookie. So is something more going to come of that? The store manager from the mall also appears to be really on it. And so even though the general plot should have worked, is she going to catch on that something's not quite right? So there are a couple of things. This really felt like good closure to good. They put the whole cab driver thing to rest, but have they? So you don't know. Kind of like, they put the whole Kim relationship stuff to rest, but you know that Kim Wexler is going to make her way back somewhere in these next 3 episodes. Of course, when Nippy came up in that conversation, that's where we got another callback to, after all that, a happy ending. So I'm kind of glad it was tied to this, because it seemed kind of melancholy, and it felt like it might be associated with the absolute end of it. And I'd certainly like things to end on an up note for Gene. Not that he necessarily deserves it, but he's still kind of pulling for the guy. So, but they've kind of washed that one out and other ones. So a lot of things got kind of tied up here in this episode, or have they? So I think it's something for us to look forward to. Let me know in the comments if you think Marion's coming back, the store manager's going to be a player, when you think Kim's going to come back. I've avoided reading a lot of stuff, but I've seen flags of a lot of people feel that this next episode 11, is going to be kind of a return to Breaking Bad, and that's probably where we're going to get the Walt and Jesse cameos and all that. I'm out at my wits' end understanding what these guys are going to do next. They're doing a great job. It's very interesting storytelling. It could certainly go that route. I think that would be pretty interesting. I fear some folks might have some leaks or some things that kind of really indicate that, but I'm excited to see. But, if nothing else, these last several episodes have shown you it's pretty hard to kind of predict, these are the next beats they're going to be covered, because they're jumping time frames. back and forth. This was an all black and white episode, an entire Gene episode. So that was, unexpected, something people were looking forward to, of course, hoping they'd see before the series ended, and we got it. It may not be the last one either. Who knows? Would love to hear from you what you think is next. And thank you for watching.